listening to the Hell Horse Show podcast, your source for unscripted conversations about the latest topics in the Mustang performance space, including our own projects, products, and news. Hosted by the founder of Hell Horse Performance himself, Jeff Gray. Now, let's get started.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to episode 5 of the Hell Horse Show, the Hell Horse Performance podcast. Joined today by Sam Reeves, as always. And then we've got Alex. Most of you guys will know him as Xander13 from YouTube or Instagram or whatever social media means you follow him at. How are you guys doing today?
Surviving.
Yep, we're here.
Surviving at home in this quarantine. It's good to have you guys with us today. And Sam, as always, you're always with me. I guess we'll just start out by giving a little bit of update. You know, I don't like talking about the coronavirus stuff too much. There's already enough stuff in public about that, but how it's impacting us and what's going on. We're still open. We're still shipping. Sam and I are still offering support on dashes and radios and answering questions and taking phone calls and working normal hours. Nothing's really changed on that front. Shipping times have changed a little bit on some of our products because of restocking or outside companies having a little bit of an impact on that as they run at like 25 or 30% of normal manpower due to the gatherings and the work at home orders and the essential employees only type of things going on. So there's been a little bit of delay there. The biggest delay that we're seeing, though, isn't actually coming from any of us involved in the business. It's coming from companies like UPS, who have suspended delivery guarantee. So what that means is just because your tracking label says you're going to get it on X date doesn't mean that's going to happen. All major shipping carriers have seemed to suspend that. I don't know if we've talked about this or not, Sam. And that means your shipping date might shift. If it says it's supposed to come, let's say on the 7th of whatever month, it might end up showing up the 17th. There's a lot going on with that. I can tell you that's impacting some motor shipments for motor orders that we have. Willett RPG has had motors sitting at the FedEx Freight Hub, I think, for a week now. One of them is supposed to come to us, and they're just not shipping as many trucks out with freight, or maybe there's less flights. I'm hearing that it's flights that are being slowed down or canceled for most packages or combined into one plane. And then freight is using less drivers for non-essential services like food and veggies and stuff we need to survive while we're all stuck in our homes going insane. So that's just the kind of the shipping update is if you got questions, make sure you're sending in those support tickets or replying to your order ticket to get that information. We'll work as quickly as we can to get you the information we need to. If it's a product that's being drop shipped from a company because we're out of stock or it's something we don't typically carry and it needs to be drop shipped, which is common in this business, we will certainly work with you to get you information on any sort of lead times or changes. But keep in mind with the coronavirus stuff going on, most companies are not running at 100% operational capacity. All of us resellers typically are, but that doesn't mean the companies behind the scenes are running at 100%. Got to keep that in mind. Like I can give you a great example. Circle D closed their shop for I think 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks when I was talking to Brady. So like you're not calling Circle D right now and thinking anything's going to get done. That's a great example. And as far as like dashes and radios and all of that stuff that's going on, Sam, can you give us a little bit of an overview about where we're at with the dashes and the radios? They seem to be blowing up in popularity again. Yeah. I mean, they never really slowed down.
Well, we had it was like a week. It was like nothing. It was like crickets. And then all of a sudden we've picked way back up with both clusters and radios. We've gotten so many radio orders. The lead time is back up to 8 weeks. I'm hoping it's not actually that long, but I'd rather under promise and over deliver. So back up to 8 weeks for those. Unfortunately,
is that the 4 to 8 inch kit or
4 to 8 inch? 2 to 3 is usually a couple days. 2 to 3 ships pretty quickly. The 2019 kits were shipping quickly. They're not anymore, unfortunately, just because of a lack of bezels, which is always the biggest bottleneck. Let's see.
Maybe you can explain that a little bit. We always mention bezels, but maybe you can explain how we get our refurbished or certified bezels or how we get brand new ones and why the market is so dry from, I want to say us. We sell so many of them, but maybe you can talk about that process a little bit about how we acquire them to help people understand what we're going through when we say that.
The 8-inch bezels, they're called the Front Controls Interface Module, FCIM. They come brand new. If you order them from Ford Parts, they come from one of two companies, which are the suppliers for a lot of electronics that Ford uses. And it's really weird because with a lot of those electronics, Ford actually ships them to these companies, but they won't ship them to dealers, and the dealers have to order for these companies. It's all a very bizarre process, but we order them brand new from them. However, they only seem to release them about once a year, and we can only get 10 to 20, maybe 25 if lucky. And we have a lot more orders than that. And so this is the one part in our kit that is refurbished. It is not brand new. I get a lot of them from wrecked cars. There's several different junkyards I work with. eBay, believe it or not, is a good resource. A couple of other places. I have a guy who just spends all day hunting for them and finds them for me to purchase on a little commission. And so with that, there's only so many wrecked cars, and sometimes we won't I didn't see any for like a month, and then last week I got like 8 of them. So it's a wildly varying thing, and unfortunately some are damaged. And if they have flaking chrome, flaking HVAC buttons, we won't ship them with our kits. That's just not fair to the consumer. They might have minor scratches, but anything major, we don't ship them, and that makes it even harder because a lot of them do get damaged because people. Either the junkyard pulling them out doesn't really care and just rips it out or breaks it somehow. So that's the deal with those bezels, and that's definitely the piece on the 4 to 8 inch kits that takes the longest, and that we, unfortunately creates these long lead times. So,
and I think we should mention at that, and you can talk about it. If you can get your own 4 to 8 inch bezel, you can contact us and reduce that lead time if you have a lead on it. Am I correct on that? We're still doing that?
Yeah, and there are some on eBay that are like $500-600, really expensive, or damaged ones. And if you don't care if you get a scratched one, I actually have a handful. We can offer a discount for that too. So we don't advertise that, but yeah, if you can get your own bezel, that's a discount. And maybe we should put that on the store page, no bezel as an option at a discount. So yeah, if you can get your own, we can find a more expensive one if you really wanted to. So if you really want to get it quick and you're willing to pay a little more, there are options for sure.
And where are we at on like F-150 lead times for dashes and radios? I'm getting a lot of questions about those because Brian Luna, who owns Mexico Racing League, is selling his truck. Yeah, and then guys like Jack Young are selling their truck too, who's also here in Houston. So I'm starting to get a lot of questions on truck digital dashes and radios.
Well, the truck dashes, I actually don't have any idea on lead time because I haven't ordered one of those anytime recently. I'll come back to that though when I talk a little bit more about the Mustang digital dashes. But the radio, I have one available, ready to ship in stock. Ships within a few days. Depends if you need the CarPlay harness or not. Because that is custom made to order. If you don't need the CarPlay harness, it probably ships next day.
Do they get Android Auto without the CarPlay harness?
Yes, Android Auto works without the CarPlay harness. CarPlay requires a special security chip, so we have to provide a USB hub, and it has to be powered. So there's just more parts, and we have to provide a harness with that. So that's why there's the added price to use CarPlay. So, anyways, though, I have one in stock. I try to keep parts for that in stock. Again, the hard thing on those is those bezels again, and I can get new ones, but they seem to release them about once a year. And I have 5 on order right now, but those have been on order for months.
Well, and yeah, that's the big thing too, is like we have multiple business entities that we're using because you're limited by business entities on how many you can order. We have multiple business entities between myself and you that are, putting orders in to see who can get them first, or if they decide to release 100 of them, we can get 100 of them, in certain cases, depending on how many we have ordered. So,
and the other thing is there's like 80 different part numbers or 80 different engineering numbers. Some of them look identical too. And so it makes it really hard. I'll order 5 different engineering numbers, and it's such a pain with these bezels, and I wish Ford would release them more. And honestly, they probably don't because of these upgrades. I don't know why, but if you needed one under warranty, you wouldn't be able to get one. So
no. I mean, I've been waiting mean, Ford warranty sucks in general. My 2020 Dually, as you know, has been at service now. Thursday will be 4 weeks waiting on a door panel for a door panel. But we do need to order a digital dash for that truck, by the way. I got to get you the VIN. So we can get that coming. So basically, we're kind of in the same spot. Radios have gone up a little bit based on lead time from some parts and demand of order. Sync 2 to 3 is still selling really well. Truck stuff still shipping really fast. And obviously, digital dashes, we're still getting out in about a week, unless it's a GT500 dash.
Yes, and that's what I was going to add to the, I say 1 to 2 weeks. It's usually about a week. It just depends how many orders there are. And we actually have a bunch right now, so it might be a little closer to 2 weeks. But the GT500 ones, they come from a different supplier. And unfortunately, that supplier is in New York, and they seem to not be working or working in extremely limited capacity. And I actually have, I believe, 3 GT500 clusters on order, and I've had them on order for over a week. Usually they come in 5 or 6 business days. So I don't know when we'll see those. So that's just something to note if you want the GT500 cluster. And remember, if you want that, you do lose remote start and you lose steering modes, and it's for auto cars only. But if you want one, there might be a delay.
Perfect. Well, why don't we segue into that to a guy that has the digital dash, has the Sync 3 radio already in his premium car that's no longer a premium and slowly becoming a base model. Let's let Alex go ahead. And Alex, why don't you tell people who you are in case they don't know who you are, how they can find you, what you got, what you drive, what your content is based. Alex is a YouTuber, if you guys that are listening haven't figured that out by now.
Yeah, so name is Alex. Thank you for having me on the show. And basically, I am a automotive YouTuber, primarily focusing around the Mustang platform. We do everything. If it's got 4 wheels, 2 wheels, it doesn't really matter, but primarily focused around mostly the S550. My vehicle, which we'll touch more on this a little bit later in the chat, I'm sure, but so 2019, yes, started out as a premium Mustang. We're slowly ripping things out to go faster. It's basically who I am. I've been on the YouTube platform for about 2.5 years, and we are, climbing in subscribers. Everything's looking good. Corona has, unfortunately, stopped a couple of things we wanted to do this month and possibly next, with as far as, tracks being closed, things that we can't really help. But the car's coming together. It's got your kit. It's comp triple ball bearing 64, 67 twin turbo kit. Hopefully we get it on down to here soon. Be able to, show the audience what we're doing power wise, but I can tell you it's a fun car at 10 to 11 pounds on the street. But
yeah, it is a lot of fun. And you've got we put a big stall 258 converter in there from Circle D. Right. You've got BMRK member. I don't know if you hit on that. I mean, you've got quite a lot done.
Yeah. So the suspension is pretty much all done. It is a magnetic ride car. Will that be a limiting factor down the road? I don't know. Time will tell. That'll be a fun topic that we can certainly talk about later on. But big Circle D stall, drive shaft axles, all that's been upgraded to handle what we plan on doing with the car. We are taking advantage of some weight savings with the BMR suspension and also that K member, which is a very, very nice piece. It does save a tremendous amount of weight. Honestly, like you see the numbers like, it saves 40 pounds here or 50 pounds here, but when you actually have it in your hands, it's substantial. And so when you do stuff like that all around the car, because we've got race seats in the car, rear seat deletes, stuff like that, we're going to add to it later on. We're unfortunately at the point where we're probably going to need a 10-point cage just to be safe, but should be a mid to low 9-second car as soon as we take it to the track. But yeah, it's a blast. I love it. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, yeah, you'll be here for all these topics today and everything else. How can they find you? I don't know if you mentioned it. What's your social media handles to make sure that people know how to reach you?
So basically, on YouTube, you find me at Xander13, just spelled out one word, Xander13. And on Instagram is the other platform I advertise on the most. It's Xander13_official. And that's it.
Perfect. No OnlyFans page or, premium accounts?
Ooh.
Anywhere they can find you? They don't have a Snapchat premium, Alex, for all your fans out there?
Unfortunately, not yet. No.
Not yet. Okay, haven't ventured that far yet.
No.
All right then. Well, Sam, what do you kind of want to cover next? You want to talk about some of the deals that are going on? Recap Ford 0 for 84. We kind of want to segue into is
sure,
we got Alex with us today.
Well, the 0 for 84 we covered pretty well last time. The only thing to add now is Bullet Mustangs are now including 0 for 84, but keep in mind it seems you lose either all or almost all rebates, which can be huge on that car, especially if it's a 19, because they seem to not be able to sell them. So it might not be actually worth going 0 for 84 unless you just really need that low payment. So keep that in mind. The Shelby American cars are 0 for 84, so that doesn't mean GT350, unfortunately. They still are not going that far in, but that means the Super Snake and the F-150 Shelby car they have, which if you have $100,000 to blow, you probably really don't care about 0 for 84, but maybe you do.
If I had $100,000 to blow, I'm not blowing it on a Shelby F-150. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm going to be DDE in it out there. I'm going to be going spending a little bit more and getting an exotic at that point.
Yeah. Well, if you already have the exotic and you want a Shelby F-150, I don't know. Hey, somebody out there wants it. So.
I used to be in the car sales business, and the saying I got taught at a very young age was there's an ass for every seat. So, somebody will buy it. That's the way it works.
Nissan Versa, Mitsubishi Mirage. I don't know.
Yeah, you get yourself a Nissan Versa.
But people buy them.
Get a Versa. That's a good daily. Alex, that's what we're going to get you. We're going to get you a Nissan Versa for your daily driver.
Well,
cheaper than a motor.
After the Army, when I got out of the Army, I actually sold cars too. So, yeah, we share some common ground there. But, yeah, it's an ass for every seat. That's a true statement. But
it is definitely a true statement.
A lot of money, but 0 for 84 is, it sucks about the incentives and losing that. But as far as financing, 84 months is a long time, but
it's free money.
Free money,
and I think that's the thing too. Is I think as this whole world-ending apocalypse thing that everybody's preaching that I don't think is true. I think it's going to get interesting to see if Ford has to keep any more of the rebates with the 0% to move cars. Like people are buying the cars right now because they're 0% and they're not totally affected, in my opinion. And from what a couple of my reps are telling me, the guys that deal with the Hell Horse cars, and then the guy that I deal with to buy all of my business and personal vehicles from, he and I communicate all the time. He's trying to get me to come in. Well, Sam already know. He's already trying to convince me to buy like 4 more vehicles with this 0% thing going on to move some units. But I think once you get into the core customers that maybe don't necessarily need a car and are looking for smoking deals, it's at least my opinion that Ford's going to have to start honoring more than just the dealer discount to make that happen. Am I wrong in that thinking?
It's I'll tell you what, it'd be a tough time to be a car sales or just be at you're working in a dealership right now making no money. When something else that people don't, they probably just don't know is 0 for 84 really doesn't make the salesperson a lot of money. So it's a great opportunity to get into that car for I have a small payment for a long time, but essentially, yes, it's free money. But I agree. I think that they're going to have to start, stacking them up, some incentives and rebates with the 0 to 84 to possibly sell. Nobody's spending money right now,
No, my wife and I were talking about that earlier. Normally I spend about $100 a week on gas for the business. And I think in the last 3 weeks, I was looking at the bank statement. Maybe I was talking to you about this as well, Sam. In the loaner truck that the dealership gave me, since mine's still in warranty, in for warranty work, I've spent $45 on gas in 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm a guy dropping $1,000 a month on gas for the business, just going everywhere, getting everything done. And that's not because business has slowed down. Don't take that the wrong way. It's just simply the fact people aren't, they're more squirreling the parts and not dealing with installs, or
people aren't meeting up. Yeah, you don't.
I'm not dragging cars to the track. I'm not dragging them.
Not dragging parts around, right? I'm
not dragging crate motors around everywhere. I'm not taking broken cars from the track. I'm not picking up customer cars as crazy as much as I was, or like when we go back to like Circle D shut their door for 2 weeks. There's a lot of places locally that build all the parts people buy that don't realize they come from Houston, generally speaking, that have shut their doors for 2 or 3 weeks just to sit at home and kind of wait it out a little bit. And I don't need to go there anymore.
You saw AccuAir went out of business?
Yeah, I've got a good buddy that works there. And he was telling me about that. And that'll be interesting. When more of that comes public, I would love to have a discussion about that. But they'll come back. It looks like they're going to be able to come back from Chapter 7. The basis of what I understand in a Cliff Note version is their investor who helped them get their brand huge. Remember, they're in California.
Right.
He owns a bunch of other businesses. I don't know how many others, but AccuAir isn't the only one that he pulled out of. He pulled out of a bunch of his investments to protect his core businesses financially right now. I hear that AccuAir already has some people interested in buying them.
That's interesting because AccuAir is definitely eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program and all the small business loans.
I don't know if it has to do. Yeah, I don't know if it's.
They must have been in some trouble already. I don't know. That's all speculation, though. I know
anything. I know in the last 2 or 3 years they ballooned up from what I understand. Again, my understanding, it may not be totally factual. They had 10 employees and now there's 60 plus.
Yeah, I think.
And they went from small shop to massive shop.
I think they grew faster than they could handle, from what I've heard. But
I think without Corona, they would have been fine because my understanding is the investor pulled out. Well, if there was no Corona, your investor would still be there, right?
Makes sense.
You're sacrificing something to protect your core assets if you're an investor.
So weird
right now.
Considering they're definitely eligible for PPP, but I don't know their business. That's just me thinking.
Well, without getting into politics, nobody's getting paid right now. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
That's the other problem. Yeah. So, yeah. So we've got all that going on. Vortec and Paxton kits right now. And again, it's going to depend on when you're listening to this podcast, but I would say within the 10 to 14 days of this podcast being published, Paxton and Vortec kits, tuner complete kits specials, they're up to 20% off with free shipping. You need to get in contact with us. The price isn't reflected on the website. Send in a support ticket, send us a text message, call, hit us up on Facebook, Instagram. Again, best ways are email and phone calls and text message, and we get you a proper pricing. I've sold a ton of those in the last week with that discount. They seem to be. Evan's got customers buying them there in Tennessee for certified performance to be installing them. Yeah. And we've got other ones going out all over the place. People that are listening that watch Alex will know Evan's the guy that showed up to install his fuel system. Evan's actually originally from Houston, and I consider him a good friend. And it's cool to see that he's so close to you in Tennessee. But that's on sale. That's on sale as well. Just to kind of re-highlight, I'm getting asked if euros are going to go on sale from some of these promotions. I need to reiterate, euros went from $6.75 to we reduced the price to $5.99 permanently. Kind of like the digital dashes right now, we're $250 off, no coupon needed. It's reflected in the price. If we get a ton more questions about that, Sam, I think we'll go back to a coupon. But euros have gone from $6.75 to $5.99. There is still about a week lead time on those shipping, those Euro taillights. A big reason for that is most of my restocking orders in on a boat that's not allowed to dock. So we are literally drop shipping them from the manufacturer. So there's a little bit of an extended lead time on shipping and a little bit of an extended lead time on getting you guys tracking numbers, but we're still fulfilling those and taking care of those as well.
It's not necessarily a problem right now. I would kind of speculate and worry a little bit about with the reduced manufacturing capacity. If there might be a point where these do go on back order for an extended period as long as coronavirus is going on. So
correct.
If you want them, order them because they are available in about a week or so right now. So
correct. So the lead time hasn't changed much. It's just a little bit more laggy to get you guys tracking numbers as we work with a manufacturer directly while we wait for the restock that's sitting on a boat to be allowed to dock. And then for all that to process, we've already talked about shipping times. So I think that covers all the meat and potatoes of some of the updates and what's going on around here and keeping people up to date with the news in a quick fashion, introducing Alex. Why don't we jump into some topics, Sam? What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea.
What would you like to start with? I'm going to let you pick today.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, just looking at what we have written down, it seems... let's talk about brake kits. And I know this, just like suspension, I know nothing about drag brakes, but I know stuff about the rest of them. So why don't you go ahead and give your to-do on people who drag builds, they want to do drag brakes, they're looking for, skinnies up front, whatever, smallest wheels in the back, however that works in drag racing, because I'm not...
You can cover that in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, it should be easy.
To the other stuff. So if you want to get rid of your factory brakes, here's my biggest recommendation. Bear and TBM, which is known as the Brake Man. We sell both. TBM's up front. I've had some customers with some Bear failures up front. It doesn't seem to be super common. I mean, Bear up front is great. Gavin's running Bears up front, but my big thing now is TBM's up front, the Brakeman's up front, Bear's in the rear, or you can go to the knuckle kits if you're trying to put a 15-inch on the rear as well with the Bear brakes, to be able to clear a 15-inch in the rear by changing out the rear knuckle as well. I mean, it's literally about that simple. That's the route to go. TBM and Bear, or all TBM, or all Bear.
They provide pads with their kits.
They provide pads. You can pick different levels of pads. Bear offers a couple of different pad types. I know TBM offers a couple different pad types. They have some straight strip hybrid stuff. They have some straight street stuff, and then there's some track only stuff. Most of the kits we sell, most of the kits we install, most of the kits on customer cars that I'm around all the time are the street strip combo. It seems to be a good combo for them to still enjoy the car on the street with not a ton of brake dust or a ton of brake noise. Obviously, the more heavy duty the brake, the louder the noise gets from metallic substances in the pads and stuff. And they seem to last. They seem to be lasting quite a while. And then obviously with Bear, I think they offer, I'm going to be wrong, but I swear when I look at their catalog, it's probably 50 colors. Purples, blues, greens, blacks, grays, whites. I mean, reds. Change your logo colors. I mean, it's
that's cool.
Your Bear brakes can be your version of your wife or girlfriend going to the nail salon, and you having to go with them and pick between all the nail polish. You could just like which shade of teal would you like? Oh, well, I don't know. There's 500 choices. They've got a great catalog for that. We sell those. They're not on the website because of all the color combos and things like that. And they're always updating their color combos, and some color combos come and go, and some they charge more money for. So hit us up if you're looking for those. But as far as drag brakes go, TBM and Bear, pretty straight, simple. If you got a lot of questions about it, give me a call. We can chat about it. But as far as like road course and things that you deal with, Sam, I mean, I don't know anything other than
there's
factory Brembos.
It's like suspension. There's a lot of steps. I'm going to try to make this brief because this is a long conversation too. And I will not cover every option because there's a lot of, actually for the Mustang, there's a surprising amount of different options. If you have factory GT brakes, the non-PP calipers are actually really good calipers. They're people compare them to the Brembo track pack Brembos on the S197s, and they are comparable. They're actually made by Continental. They're not a Brembo caliper, but they're still 4-piston, 2 on each side. They're great calipers. First thing I recommend with everybody, doesn't matter if you have a performance package or not, change your pads. The stock pads are dusty as hell, and they're good. They're really not bad pads. I would use them on the track. I have used the stock pads on the track. I personally, there's so many pad options. Personally, my preference is I like the PowerStop Z23s, or if you're going to track it, Z26s, but they can be a little louder. If you have the regular front calipers and you want the Brembos, it's not a very hard swap. The calipers seem to be off of wreck cars between $400 and $600. Just look around. You need rotors and pads, obviously, too. There's great write-ups on Mustang 6G about that. If you're not tracking the car, honestly, if you're just going for looks, those front Brembos are great. Some pads and you're done. If you're tracking the car and you are pretty aggressive, you're not just, a lazy track guy, which some guys just do it for fun and aren't that aggressive. First of all, track day pads by PowerStop, awesome pads. I actually only run them on the front when I go on the track. I don't see a need to run them on the back. The backs aren't worked as hard. They don't fade. They're just, honestly, for the price, they are the most amazing track pads. You can street them. They're dusty as hell on the street, but you could street them. Rear calipers are the one big thing I will mention. OP Mustang, I think it's OP Mustang, makes a upgraded factory rear caliper. If you don't want to spend a lot of money and you don't want them to seize up on the track like I've had mine do, I've had friends that have them do them because they just cook the bushings, cook the rubber, and they're done. You can get those upgraded calipers. There's several rear options there. You can go GT350. That's a little more involved. It's got the hub parking brakes with the shoes. So you need to replace the knuckles. It's different. I believe it's different half shafts. They're a little longer, I think. which you can just get GT350 half shafts, I'm pretty sure, but don't quote me on that. There's plenty of conversion info on Mustang 6G again. They're a great option. The fronts, I'm not 100% on, so definitely check out Mustang 6G. It'll have more info on that. The kit I did in the rear is the Willwood 4-piston rear kit, which is a dual caliper kit if you want a parking brake. I actually don't run a parking brake right now because it drags slightly, so I'm just running no parking brake. Just keep wheel chocks to the car for a backup, but those things are great. They have their own pads and 2-piece rotors. They're honestly amazing. It's I think it's like an $1,800 brake kit, which is actually comparable to doing the GT350 upgrade unless you get lucky on a wreck car and somebody doesn't know what they have, which seems to be uncommon on the GT350. The other big upgrade is going to be those 2-piece rotors. You're going to have a lot less rotating mass, which doesn't seem like much, losing 5 pounds out of a rotor, but it's actually huge. They're crazy expensive. Good ones can run $1,000 for a set on the front, like the Girodiscs. Bayer makes them. Steeda makes a set that I've heard are pretty good. So there's a bunch of options there, and it's based on your budget. And in my opinion, there's no middle ground with brakes. It's pads and you're good, maybe the upgraded rear calipers, or you go big and you spend a whole bunch of money making them really good. And for a high power car going around a road course, you need to have them really good. And of course, good brakes don't really matter if you don't have good tires. So keep that in mind, because if you have giant brakes, but you're just locking those Pilot Sport 4s up on the track, which are great tires, may not necessarily need good brakes. Or brakes is good. And it's a lot about dissipating heat too. So that's the gist of it.
It's interesting you mentioned tires, because I think one of the biggest things I see pop up on Facebook, Mustang 6G, not necessarily so much in our support, but a lot of Facebook groups, a lot of messages, is tire pressure monitoring system, TPMS sensors, different wheels using TPMS. Do I need the tool? Do I not need the tool? Do I need to buy OEM ones? Can I buy aftermarket ones? There seems to be a billion questions on that.
There's actually a really simple answer for TPMS, and no, you don't need the tool. Pretty much most Fords 2010 and newer automatically learn TPMS sensors. Actually, I don't even know if the tool works on the new Mustangs. It might not even do anything. It'll auto learn the location and the pressure, just start driving. It's actually crazy to me because I actually don't have TPMS sensors in my current wheels because I just totally forgot to order them. And I pull in my garage and I have my other wheels in my shed out in my backyard, like 30 feet away through the house, and it reconnects to those sensors every time. And eventually I guess they'll fall asleep, but
right.
It's kind of crazy how the system works.
What about the aftermarket ones? I mean, that's Ford. What about the aftermarket ones that like American Muscle sells or are cheaper?
Waste of money. They're not actually cheaper. So go on eBay. You can buy OEM sensors now, to be completely fair. They might just be Chinese clones of OEM sensors, but you can buy these OEM sensors. And I've bought probably 3 or 4 sets for different cars over the years, and they look identical to OEM, and I've never had a problem. And they learn just normally, automatically. Just put them. It comes with the sensor and the what the heck is it called? The wheel stem, the valve stem.
Valve stem.
And so that all comes as one piece. They may or may not come with the cores. Doesn't really matter. Just put them in, and they work great. The one thing I will mention is with one set of them I had the valve stems all went bad over time, where they would the faster you drove, the more air would leak out of them. But that's with one set, and that was, for me at least, is an easy fix. I just put new valve stems in, DB the tire, put new valve stems in, but I have access to all that equipment.
You should send those to Alex so that when he's on his way to the drag strip, his tire pressure just naturally lowers. So when he gets to the track, he doesn't have to spend any time airing down.
Yep.
Just hit the track, do a burnout.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Send those to him. I'll give you his address after this, and you can just send
They're
some
long in the
products to him.
trash.
Oh, well,
I'm sorry. That was like 2 or 3 years ago. That was like the first set of wheels I had on my Mustang after I got it. But I just recommend the eBay ones. Just They look the same as factory. They say Fomoco on them like the factory ones do. They may or may not be clones, but they work great. I've had no problems, and they seem to be less than $60 for a set of 4. There's no reason to not have TPMS sensors in your aftermarket wheels when they're that cheap, in my opinion.
Or just don't run them at all if you got a drag car. That's what we do.
I mean, yeah, I get that.
You don't need those at all.
If it's mostly a street car, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't need to spend the money on that. I can just check my pressure. And I'm like, that's absolutely fine. However, to be honest, I actually really like TPMS. For the track, it's nice because I can watch my pressures as I'm going around the track. Like, okay, no wonder it's feeling greasy. I'm at like 40 PSI now. These things must be hot as hell. But if you're driving down the street and you get a nail in your tire, you'll know a lot faster when it hits, 25 PSI rather than having to wait till you're like,
That's true. Speaking of brakes, Alex, I don't think you and I have really talked about this. So here's a curiosity question. When are we getting rid of your brakes? When are we going to get rid of those fancy ass Brembo performance pack required Gucci 401A package, convert you back down to a 300A? When we getting rid of those brakes?
Well, it goes in line with everything else we're deleting. The car, when I bought it brand new in 2019, 2019 car cost $53,000 MSRP. I wanted everything, but now it's basically a base car. But
But you got to highlight that by saying you've wrecked it 2 or 3 times.
So all not at fault. Not at fault accidents. We got to put that out there. No, honestly, seriously, been trying to. It's kind of like MagneRide. It's going to have to possibly happen sooner than later, and I'm just trying to deal with that right now because we've been pulling all this stuff off the car. Those things are still reflected in my payment. I've actually made videos about this. Why a base car is better than a premium car. If you were going to mod in some way. Just really before you buy any kind of car, especially if you want to mod it, if you want to go force deduction, really be honest with yourself and decide. Now, the problem is that everybody changes their minds, and that's what happened with me. I bought the car, making YouTube content, didn't think that we would ever go as far as we have now. But, things evolve, things change. But yes, the brakes are eventually going to have to be dealt with sooner than later. They are heavier than the big PP brakes. So an option would be going down to base brakes, like he was just talking about, that he's used on the track before. But there's not a huge weight savings there, from my understanding. So that only leaves aftermarket in the equation. So your Brakeman or the Bear option. So something we need to talk about, yes.
We have you on record saying no more Brembo brakes at some point.
Hey, you can sell those.
And you can. I don't know what they're worth, but you can sell them. I mean, they're on my 15.
Like I said, they seem to be $400 to $600 for just calipers. Well, maybe the rotors too.
Yeah.
The thing is, as far as, like you were just talking about, Sam, rotational mass, the 5 pounds that you might save off the rotor is, most people think, oh, it's just 5 pounds, it's 5 pounds, but it's rotational. It's massive. Right. Massive for acceleration.
Same thing with wheel weight. People don't think about that either.
Yeah. Yes. That's why
forged wheels are so much lighter and there's a real benefit to them.
Forged wheels or the carbon fiber wheels that come on the Shelbys for track use, they're substantially lighter and you really can feel the difference. Now, I've been on track in a GT350R with and without the carbons, and there is a difference. You can feel it. But brakes, that's the car specifically that really needs a lot of them. For road course stuff, you're on the brakes hard and often. Those 20-minute track sessions, you're going through brake pads. I've had Z23 from Power Stop in a Hellcat before, and that was zero. We went from Tennessee to Disney World, right? And so we got all down there. And I just installed the pads, swiped my finger all across the wheels, put my hands all over them because I want to see, what as far as the dust. And there was none. that long trip, there was
Yeah, those are the pads I street with. I actually like them for street.
No noise, no dust. It was really impressive. Now the Z26 I've never had. I've got a.
They're actually the same compound. They just don't have a rubber shim, so they're just louder.
Okay.
It's just better for heat dissipation if you're taking them on track, but same compound.
Yeah. So, the issue is, me and Jeff need to talk about brakes at some point amongst whatever else we do. But, because we still do street the car. We still daily drive it somewhat.
Surviving the apocalypse is what we're going to do first.
Right. So we still need to be able to slow down. And, the car lives basically on a drag pack. So.
Sorry, I am being distracted on the side.
You're fine.
Trevor, who you've seen my wallpaper, the red 18. He was the first one to have a Paxton in a fuel system, I believe, in the country on a stock motor, and went 9s, and then was involved in an accident that wasn't his fault. And it got totaled out like 3 months after getting it done. I mean, he had a Paxton 2200 on a 315 pulley, making almost 1,000 wheel horsepower with a simple Paxton. It was super crazy. He's sending me links on Facebook right now. I've been trying to get him back into a Mustang for like 2 years.
Right.
And this 0% is finally triggering him. And he just sent me the link to like this 2019 301A. So Sync 3, obviously, for those that don't know, Sync 3, the bigger screen and a black accent package. And they want like $38,000 for this 2019. And I'm like, bro, I can get you a 2020 an iconic metallic silver, which is the GT500 color and the same color as my truck. I'm like, bro, I can get you a 2020 with 0% for like 36.
Yep.
Why would we spend 38 on a 19 when we can get a 20?
Yep.
I'm just saying. So it's funny if I
that's bizarre.
Yeah, there's a couple of differences between the 19s and 20s. Just like the 19 and the 18, there was actually some substantial differences, but
like the one note horn tone, I cannot believe Ford did that. Still, it sounds like, I don't know why it bothers me so much. Well, I cannot stand that.
The big thing for him is he's just going to boost it.
Right.
He wants to build we're going to drop the motor out of it instantly, send it to Willett RPG, twin turbo it, or big single with like an 83, 88 or something, kind of like Van Voris is doing. But he likes that body style. And I'm like, okay, then we might as well just.
Now's the time.
You buy it now. It's 0%, buddy. And at the same token, what does it matter what other options it has? Because I'm literally dropping the drivetrain out of this thing with 30 miles on it.
If I could do it again, and I've preached this before, but if I could do it again, and I will, because when the S650 comes out, I'm going to have to deal with the same fight internally in my head. Do I want options or do I want to build? And the thing is, for 18, where the S550 that's out now, specifically for the 18 plus, if I were brand new shopping, especially for the 0 to 84, I would heavily think about a 301A option car, 315 gears, 10-speed automatic. That's it. That's it.
Right. So like this car that he likes, I mean, we can add digital dashes, we can add Sync 3 to a base, but where it becomes different is he likes the 19 by 8.5 ebony black wheels and the black accent package. All right. So let's just take that. Let's say that's worth $1,000, even if you buy cheap wheels and tires. Okay. I'm good with that. It's got a painted black roof. I'm good with that. The vinyl looks good. That's a couple $100, but it's already done. He likes those things. And then it comes with the 2020's got, I guess maybe they all have it, XM radio included with the Sync 3. But I'm like, okay, man, if we figure the wheels are worth, let's just say $1,500 with tires, because those are the wheels that you like, and versus the base 18s, right? You're going to have to buy tires if you go to a 19 for a street tire, and you like the painted roof. It's worth it, because then all I have to do is put a digital dash in the car, in my opinion. Like all you got to do is put a digital dash in it. You've already got side wheels for the street that you like, or just cruising around, or just wheels that you like for the side. And you've got your painted roof and the color that you like, and Sync's already naturally in the car. Like, I'm like, okay, that's the one time I'm like, you don't need a 300A.
Right.
As much as I like our Sync kits, I think Ford should make Sync 3 standard on the Mustang. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they did in a year or two, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting. So I figured I'd bring that up. He's literally on Facebook on the other side of my screen. And like, what do you think about this? I'm like, dude, if we're getting serious, this 2020 that my guy's trying to get me to get, let's just take this one. This seems like the best deal. In all reality, I'd love for him to just buy a manual so we can put a Glide or a 400 in it. Since there's still limitations with the 10R.
Interesting that you just brought that up too, because that's something that a lot of people may not be familiar with. Is if you have, let's say, a 10-speed car and you want to go to a Glide or the Turbo 400, it's not just a simple plug and play switch. The PCM,
well, you might as well say $4,000 and just buy a base model from the beginning. If you're gonna do that, eventually wait till the MT82 makes a crap. I mean, I've got a twin turbo 2020. That the guy bought in a manual because he had to have a manual gearbox. It's got 3,000 miles on it, and I've already had to put a T56 XL in it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to get you off topic there, Sam. I'm just like,
no, you're fine.
I'm like, this is an interesting time for this conversation to pop up. It's just, hey, I want to get back into a race car.
In my car. Now you're making me think about that, but my MT82 is still hanging on. The clutch didn't, but the rest of the transmission.
Well, it's like my car. I would 6R swap, but I don't know why I do that when I just go to a Glide or a TH400, a drag car. But back on track. I guess let's talk a little bit about the tuning process. It's nice to have Alex here. We can hit this briefly for just a couple of minutes. The do's and don'ts of remote tuning, what to expect, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, tuning devices, things like that. And I guess the best way to start that is by saying my preferred device is the Engage. Unless you have an 11 to 14 Mustang, then you should run an SCT device. You're better off running an SCT device than an 11 to 14 Mustang, in my opinion. And my opinion is based on the fact that we work with Palm Beach Dyno and have worked with Palm Beach Dyno for quite a period of time now. And that is just the general consensus of us getting good data is only run an SCT if you're an 11 to 14 Mustang. Otherwise, you should be running an Engage.
Now, why is that? What's the advantage to the Engage for the?
There's more data points that can be had from the Engage is the biggest thing, and then ease of use. Because here's the thing: if you want to data log an SCT car, you're pretty much taking a laptop or a Surface.
That's true, and that's what I've done because I have an SCT,
and it has to be a Windows device. So now take all your Mac users,
makes sense,
cut them out. Yep. You can plug into an Engage with anything, pull the files, and send it. I mean, it's the biggest reason that the device I take around isn't an iPad Pro. It's the biggest reason the device I take around for IDS and ForeScan and everything we do on the site as well, Sam, is a Surface, because if you've got an SCT,
Windows.
I've got to have a Windows. So that
when IDS is easy. Windows, ForeScan is Windows. They need to make a Mac version of ForeScan already.
Like even HP tuners is Windows.
Yep.
So everything is still Windows supported. It's opposite in the performance world and the graphic design world and the web development world and the I'm super cool, I have a MacBook Pro world, and it's a lot easier to use. Everything is still kind of Windows dependent on that side. So it's not a Linux kernel. I'm not getting into the geeky stuff on that, but
I actually send people these crappy Windows tablets to use if they like absolutely don't have any other option, can't borrow a Windows laptop, and they work fine. But yeah, it's how it is. It's all Windows.
I tell people go buy a Surface Pro Go. You can get them at Walmart on sale for $250.
Yeah, I tell people to go buy the $79 tablet that runs Windows, and it works fine for using ForeScan once. It's absolutely slow as balls, but it works.
If it gets the job done,
it gets the job for done. A one-time use, and that's why I will loan them out to people. So if they pay shipping.
Yeah, I mean, you pay shipping, and
I have 3 of them actually.
If we don't get it back, we don't get it back. Does it really freaking matter? No, I don't.
Right.
I don't really think it. I don't really think it matters if it comes back.
So far, everybody sent them back. So, but I usually take a deposit on the value of it. That's probably why they send them back. That whole $80.
Yeah. And when it comes to and Alex, you can definitely chime in here. When it comes to the do's and don'ts of the remote tuning process, I'm not going to talk about dyno tuning and renting the dyno and how that works and how we do things. Because
talking about street tuning.
Yeah, when you're truly remote tuning, when they're like, go give me a log from this to this. Here's the best advice I can give you. And YOLO has talked about this before, and YOLO gives great advice on this coming from the tuning world. Is don't ask questions or state that there is a problem without sending a fucking data log.
Yeah.
If there is no data to look at, not even me, myself, looking at your log quickly while you're waiting for Rob or somebody to get back to you to see like, hey, can I keep running this thing temporarily to get home? I'm having some sort of issue. Even if I need to look at it temporarily, if there's no data, it's pretty hard to answer your question.
They don't know what's going on then.
Right.
It's like trying to work on a spreadsheet blind. I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah. So before I answer that, I had an 18 stick shift car, MT82 car before my 19. I don't even know if you knew that. This is a couple years ago. And just want to reiterate why the N-Gage is absolutely where it's at. So I had both. I had the SCT handheld, and then I upgraded to the N-Gage. So I want to, just caveat to before we go on that yes, I wholeheartedly agree that the N-Gage, even though it's cost a little bit more, it's completely worth the investment. And then as far as data logging, just get with your tuner. They're going to tell you what to do, especially if you're street tuning. They will give you commands. Take commands from Tower, and then go do it. So maybe step revs, just idles. Go out there and do some watt hits, XRPM to XRPM, and this gear, depending on what it is, But as far as data logging and asking questions, yes, I kind of honestly feel that's funny. I was actually mentioning this to a couple of buddies of mine here recently. I think that Rob Shoemaker's probably has heard enough from me right now, just because I've been so paranoid with this car. I want everything to be perfect. And I've been sending him data logs like every day, and he keeps coming back. He's like, dude, it's good, but if there is a problem, and you don't log it, there's no way to know unless you're videoing it. And even that's not going to tell the story. You've got to have that data log turned on, to include when you go to the track, when you're doing your runs or something like that. Log those runs, even if you don't send them anywhere. On the off chance that something does happen, the log will tell the story.
You should be logging your runs anyways, because sometimes tuners will give you, in some cases, depending on the customer, they'll give you a little bit more love on the track and say, this is track use only. I've run into that a few times. They're like, hey, based on the conditions, I'm going to give you a tune based on the current conditions that the car's seen that you're in. Don't run this after the night. This is let's try to go faster at the track for the conditions you're currently in. So you should be logging.
I guess that's another reason that N-Gage is going to be superior there, because you can just hit go.
Yes, you can switch between tunes. It holds multiple tunes. You can switch between tunes within like 4 to 6 minutes. It's very, very fast. Just depending, I've had it as fast as 4 minutes. I think they advertise about 6 minutes between load times. The things that you can monitor, going back and forth, selecting PIDs, multiple gauges that you can stare at. Like I watch my my knock, my fuel trims, short, long term. What else do I look at? I look at my my lambda, per side. So, things like that. But there's so much that you can do, and it's a sexy device, right? It's small. Some people have put them in their little air vents, the circle air vents. Or I've got mine in the window mount. No obstruction, to vision. It's perfect. Looks right at home there. And just I use it all the time. If it's an SCT, if it's a big device, like they're not really big, but an awkward tablet looking thing like the SCT handheld, they work. They do good. You can mount them on your windows, do the same thing. You can monitor a lot of the same stuff, sure. But just for ease of use, N-Gage wins. HP tuners N-Gage all day long, twice a Sunday.
One thing I want to also add about the remote tuning process, if you're not dyno tuning, if you're tuning on the street, and honestly, if it's a street car, it might be worth tuning on the street either way, just if you're trying to get best drivability. But do exactly what they say in the instructions. Don't cut any corners. Just do to the T what they say. And remember, if you're spinning, that's no good data. So that I can't stress that enough, because I know just with my tuning experience and others is if you don't do it right, they can't help you. So, and you'll just tell you to go do it again.
Right. And the big thing is when they tell you to turn off traction control, make sure traction control is turned off, especially in boosted cars. A lot of people don't realize that your TCS, if you're spinning super hard, it starts to cut fuel. It causes a lean cut condition, which is going to affect your tuning, affect your logging, and potentially affect your vehicle. So if they say, go log this with TCS off, go log it with TCS off. I've looked at a lot of logs and I'm like, I don't even need to look at this. And I don't need to get Rob's opinion on this. If it's something we're doing, remotely or whatever it might be where I'm involved in the situation, I'm like, I can tell TCS is on. You need to go turn off TCS and you need to go make this log again. And
by turning TCS off, you were, just to clarify, for everybody that doesn't know, I do know. You turn traction off. So let's say you have the toggle switches, but then you go back and you hold for 8 to 10 seconds.
Turn advanced track off, not just
turn advanced track off. Correct.
Completely off. Yes.
You don't need to unplug the dead man switch in the engine bay. None of that.
Well, you can if you want, but
I mean, you can. But if you're trying to do it simplistically, toggle the switch up, leave it off.
And again, if you're spinning, if it's through third gear, I know doing this on the street, you're not trying to break any laws if you can, or you're trying to be safe about it. You're not wanting, if you have a lot of power, you're not wanting to do a fourth, fifth gear, pull through wide open. So if you're spinning down low, it makes it, it makes it really hard to accurately tune. So you got to make sure you're not spinning.
That's where dyno tuning can come in really handy.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Me right now, we were trying to street tune the car, and then we've got pretty good locked in tune right now. But I do want to put it on the dyno and just reconfirm, and then that way we can get some numbers behind it as well. So if you're street tuning, you're gonna have a fast car. Some people want the numbers, and then you're not, unfortunately, going to get that if you're street tuning. So dyno tuning is safer. You're not out there doing over 100 mile an hour, on the street. So there's some things to consider there. But the convenience is pretty easy, just to remote tune back and forth for street tuning, sure. But, dyno tuning is definitely worth it if you can do it, I think.
Well, yeah, people always
for big power.
Right. Well, people always say you can't race the dyno number. I don't care what the dyno number is, but the dyno tells you so much more. The dyno tells you what changes you're making into the tune for low end power or high end power, where the curve's falling over, where shift points need to be, or if, like in Alex's position, he had damaged stock valves because it's the only thing we didn't change in the motor swap over, and we should have, but we didn't have enough information to know that the valves were subject to as much damage as they were. You can see that he had valve float. Yes, you can hear it. But listen, if you're racing with the windows down, on 3 counting in Mexico, you're not hearing that. If you're paying attention to the data log and the road and trying to maintain it, you may not pick up that. So using the dyno as a tool with your tuner is a great way of doing that too, on top of the safety measures and everything else. But yeah, turn traction control off, listen to what your tuner wants, do what your tuner wants. If you're afraid of making, let's say, a fifth gear hit or something like that because of the area you have to do, ask your tuner. Your tuner will tell you what gear to put it in. I can tell you tuners don't want to see logs in really low gears because you're blowing through the RPM so quickly, and there's not really great workable data there to see what's happening over a scale of time. It's like, first gear, I logged it. Okay, great. You went 0 to 20 in 0.4 seconds because you're spinning and the tach is flying to the rev limiter and shifting. Like,
yeah, that's not going to help them.
You got to work it out with your tuner. But that's the biggest do's and don'ts: is do what they want. Make sure you have the right PIDs set up. And for the love of God, send a fucking log. I mean, if you don't send a log or you're asking questions without a log, they're going to make you go log it. The first comment back is going to be, go log the car.
Yep.
Show me where it's doing it. And if it doesn't do it when you go log it, continue to log it until it does it, and then send me the data so I can look at it. Describing a problem doesn't really help. Even to Alex's point, video helps. I mean, video helps if it's a problem that's audible, that you can kind of identify where it's coming from. But if it's something you're just feeling in the seat of your pants, I don't know how you're going to describe that to a tuner. You need to have a data log.
Yeah, exactly. So like we were talking the other day, I've got what we think is a noisy DI. It's a little bit noisier now than it used to be, but we are running more fuel pressure with the fuel system, and there's some other things that might affect that. I don't know. Maybe it's on its way out. I don't know. But, I know my car very well, and so I heard it the other day, just a little bit of noise, and took video of it, and it's so hard to determine what it, if it's rod knock or if it's this or that or whatever. But the thing is, if it, like, for example, rod knock, a data log is going to show that. I mean, you're going to see it.
Correct.
So, but if you don't log it, then who knows? So
it is one of those interesting things. So, I mean, that's the quick synopsis of it. Is that's the preference on tuning devices. 11 to 14, get an SCT, especially if you're using Palm Beach Dyno. Ken's going to reiterate the same thing to you. 15 or newer, be on an Engage. Make sure you're updating the firmware when they're sending the firmware. Make sure you're setting the PIDs. If you don't set the PIDs, there's no data. That's that long email you get from Palm Beach that says you need to set up all this on your Engage. And for our customers, I typically set it up if we're the ones tuning the car, building the car, putting the car on the dyno, at the dyno with them, whatever it might be, as we're monitoring the data. Things like that. But you got to pay attention and listen. If you're not following the data, you're going to get the result. Your tune results are going to be equivalent to the work you put into it, right? It's like anything else. If you put shitty work into your logs and give shitty info and shitty logs and shitty feedback, you're not going to be happy with the tune. But if you do what you're supposed to do, it goes a long way.
Yes. Yep. I mean, you've paid so much money for a tune and the device itself, you might as well get your money's worth out of it. So go out there and do a tune. Yeah. Log it correctly. Otherwise you're just basically blowing your money away. If you want that nice tune, especially that kill tune, they can't, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Well, I think that's probably about as far as we want to go on that topic without having like Rob on the podcast. I know we want to do that. What do you kind of want to cover next, Sam? You want to talk about Alex's car? Or do we want to jump into what we've got going on? Yeah, that's probably
a good call. Go ahead and jump into Alex's car and then follow up with your car.
Oh, perfect. So I think you've talked about it a little bit, Alex, but outside of where we're at now, you've got a 19 GT with our twin turbo kit on it in a big converter. What kind of events do you plan on attending? What about track days? We talked about the dyno a little bit. And then while you're stuck in quarantine, what's kind of some of the stuff you're working on in the car? I have a good idea, but obviously our listeners don't have a great idea about what you're planning on doing with this thing while you're stuck at home.
Right. So, unfortunately, by the time we are getting to the point now where the car is race ready, then the virus hit. So things that we can't help, right? But acts of God or whatever it may be. But we're just hanging in there, just like the rest of the, I guess, world. But as far as the country, all the tracks are pretty much closed. So we're waiting patiently, or impatiently. And, yes, the streets are still open, but no, we want to prep surface. So we want to chase some times and go fast. The correct way, and also make content. So that's the whole thing. So, been playing with the car on the street around wastegate pressure. Recently started turning it up just to learn the car as much as possible on the street. Feels really good. It's a twin turbo kit from Hellhorse. It has a big Circle D stall. We have suspension from BMR to include their awesome lightweight K member. I definitely recommend everybody buy it. But, you get a little bit maybe of NVH, not really noise, but there's a little bit more vibration in the steering wheel. But, I mean, let's be honest, if you're building a fast car, who cares? So I didn't want a Cadillac. That's why I didn't buy one. But not saying anything's bad about that. I mean, it's nothing that's going to sway your decision. A lot of, it is what it is. Go fast parts. Change the seats. What have we done? 10R80 car. We need to build. In the meantime, yes, we need to build the transmission. So we already have the clutches from you. They're McLeod, I believe. Got a transmission guy that's kind of local to me that is going to hook me up. Usually I turn all of my own wrenches to include pulling engines and rebuilding them and all that stuff. The transmission this time, I don't think I'm going to do. I'm going to have a professional do it. I've never been inside of a 10-speed automatic transmission, so I'm not about to do it for the first time on mine. But we need to be looking at some safety stuff too. A lot of guys, they go out there and race. Depending on the track they go to, they may or may not care about roll cages. But, that's something that we're thinking about right now is a cage. Ideally I could live pretty easily probably with a 6-point, but they're pretty affordable. But I think that we are vastly going to exceed the speed ratings of a 6-point cage. So a couple of options there. There's some local. So there's I can't speak. There are some local guys here that build them. They do them custom in-house, or there's some prefab kits so we could look at online. And then either way, you're going to have to take it to a shop and have them weld and put it in and paint it or do whatever they do. It's an expensive thing. So we're going pretty far with the car. if any of you listeners out there are interested, I've got one of the, I think actually right now it is the only twin turbo Hell Horse car on YouTube. So not a lot of.
Yeah, you got Jack coming up behind it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a Jack's coming up behind us, but he's got a GT350R. But as far as the GTs, I think that I'm it. So Xander13 is the YouTube channel. And then also we do the Instagram at Xander13_official. Big plans for the car. We just put some new Ford starters on it. They look good. And by no means are we slowing down, trying to make content through this whole crazy time right now. And just trying to stay positive and move forward always.
You going to do a burnout competition in your own driveway, or would your wife kill you?
I have actually thought about doing that in the driveway or the garage, facing the, towards the street, obviously. But I need some tires. I'm not going to do that on mine, but I would gladly go buy some used ones, just burn them up for the hell of it. That's the thing is right now YouTube is an interesting place because I got out of the Army. I sold cars, and then I've always been a car guy. So I was like, you know what? Let me pick up a camera, see where it goes. And believe it or not, it's actually been able to be financially supportive of it's been good. It's been pretty good. So, but things have been getting slow. So there's a lot of desperate content out there right now. So burnout competition in the driveway sounds kind of appealing at the moment, but
I'm with you on that. I can go for that. No problem.
Yeah. Well,
I don't also have to live with you and you're
all of the parking lots. Yeah. All the parking lots everywhere, like Sam's Club, Walmart. I mean, they're all empty, so with all these stay-at-home orders. But if I'm in my car and it's just me, I mean, who knows what fun we could be having right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think your driveway is the better place to do it, but
sure.
I'm not you. You got to pick out where you want to go.
By the quarantine, we'll be, doing the right thing in the driveway. I'm all about it.
So let me ask you this: with we've talked about it a little bit, but the listeners haven't. If the track's back open back up, what's the goal for 2020, time wise?
Well, I mean, it's your turbo kit. If we don't hit 9.5, I'm going to be a little upset.
You better go 9.5 the way it's already sitting. I mean, big picture. What are you trying to do?
Well, in the beginning, I did the build. I thought that we were going to go supercharger. In the beginning, when we partnered up, that was the direction, and then we decided to change courses. And what better way to represent Hell Horse than their own in-house kit? So, with the twin turbos, and it's good for content. It's different than what everybody else is doing. And honestly, I've driven a lot. That's the thing about YouTube is I get to drive other people's cars, other heavy builds. A lot of them are Whipple cars making 700-800 horsepower, and I know how they feel. They're fine. They're great for driving every day. I wanted something different, and so I've never had a twin turbo car, so that's what we did, and I don't regret it at all. It's fun to drive it with a big inverter. It's a little different. The turbos spool up very fast and they hit hard, lots of torque. That's something that is just definitely going to set if you're looking for big power, you have to go turbo. You have to go turbo. And the torque is, it's much higher compared to some of the other competitors with their supercharger kits that are out there. But find the turbo size that's right for you. Your standard is a 6467, but I believe that you can get those customizable, correct?
Yeah, you can go up or down in size. Like I'm doing 6871s on one car, and like Jeremy, who's got an On3 top mount kit that we changed the turbos. We've done 6262s on his. So yeah, I mean, we can customize it based on what people want.
Right. So it's a good thing. That's the thing is, especially with the boost controller, being able to control it, turn it up, turn it down, and the Go Fast Bits controller works very well. Very, very user friendly. There's I think 5 different presets, and you can build them in different ways. You can have your street preset, hit a button, go down to your second preset, and that's your race tune. Maybe somebody rolls up on you on the street. You have one set up just for that situation. But I like the ability to control the car and its power level. That's why we went turbo, and I'll make the same decision over and over again. I think that superchargers are very reliable, but I think that turbos can be too. And the cool thing too is these are water-cooled turbos, so no oil lines to run, no nothing like that. So, but yeah, as far as the direction, to answer the question, in 2020, low nines, whatever that may be, is the goal. And then we'll just make content. We'll race as much as possible, and then maybe 2021, if we don't end up accidentally hitting eights. But I think in 2021 we'll be chasing some faster times, but definitely probably want to build motor before that happens. That's something else that we need to talk about and that might be a future conversation, is a rods pistons motor versus, as far as sleeve versus what's already in the car, right, with the plasma coating. So how far can you take a plasma coated engine, which is rods and pistons, versus sleeved? It'd be a great discussion, but one of me and you are going to have,
especially when it comes to budget. Like, the whole thing comes down to budget, realistic budget. Not everybody wants to put a $20,000 motor in their car because they don't have the means. So how far can you go? That's something else. That'll be an interesting topic for sure. We'll have to cover that. So low nines, holding you to it. I mean, you'll get there, but the track's got to open.
The tracks need to open. We do not know, unfortunately. Just this whole thing keeps getting worse and worse. So a few days ago, we officially got that stay-at-home order from my state. So that's pretty much a common thing these days. And if the individual states out there, the other ones that are not, they will. The numbers for corona infected keep going up because they're testing more and how that whole thing works. But we're just patiently waiting, honestly. Probably going to have to put a sheet on the car sooner than later. And that's the ultimate goal, is to go very fast. So
perfect. I know we look forward to seeing what you can do and working together. It's been fun. We'll see where we end up at the end of the day, right? I mean, that's the whole goal. Where can we end up at the end of the day? It's going to be awesome to see what it goes. So guys, make sure you check out Xander and his channel and everything that he's got going on as well. What do you want to kind of talk about next, Sam? We kind of want to end it there, move on to the next kind of thing, or what do you want to cover?
I think we've covered a lot today. I don't know if
we can cover what we're doing with the Hell Horse car next.
Cover that real quick, and then
you want me to cover that? All right. So for those that don't know, I personally and started this business with a 2015 Mustang GT Performance Pack, and it's well over 900 wheel horsepower with the Paxton setup and full suspension. It's still an MT82 car. And that car has been sitting idle for a little while as the business has grown, and I've been dealing with customers and everything else.
How long does that not run for now?
I haven't driven it in about 15 months. It's wrapped. You can see pictures of it on Instagram. I advertise the grill kits with it. I do all of that with it. And, the big thing's been just no time to update it. It's fast for what it is. It's enjoyable. I wanted to put a TH400 or a Power Glide in it and change this and that setup and just never had time. And finally through this the other day, you and I were talking, I've committed, I should say, since it's my car, my money, my brand money spending on it. We've committed to kind of going big. I mean, I think that's the best way to put it is we've kind of decided to go big. Powertrain's coming out. It's going to Willett RPG. We're putting the whole long block's going to him is what I should say. And we're going to go to, initially the thought plan is going to a 5.2 liter Gen 3 Predator motor. So the block out of a GT500 using the Gen 2 crank, with micro polishing, doing 11-to-1 compression with some Manley and RPG specific pistons, I-beams, King bearings, ARP, everything, oil squirter block off plates, running the new Boundary oil pump gears that Travis just released, obviously 12 millimeter head studs. And then we're going to end up sending the current Gen 2 head cars off to Frankenstein. So if you're not familiar with Frankenstein, it's who does like all of Cletus's porting work, or if you've seen Cletus McFarlane's intake manifolds, those are from Frankenstein. You're welcome to look them up. They're going to do the head porting. We're going to do exhaust valves, valve springs. Comp secondary and primary chains and tensioners and all sorts of craziness. Basically, sleeve and O-ring in the motor. Yeah, it'll be sleeve and O-ring sink. Yeah, the whole kitchen sink, sleeved and O-ringed motors, O-ringed exhaust ports on the heads. Basically, we're putting a retarded motor in the car that'll be capable of supporting 2,000 plus wheel horsepower with no problem for the hell of it. And then I've been working with a gentleman named Justin Johnson. You guys might know him as Quick 58s on Instagram, has a Comp Orange 15 that's got an Armageddon twin turbo kit on it that just recently converted to a Glide. I've been asking him about his, how he's feeling about the Glide versus a TH400. But right now it looks like we'll put a Glide in the car. And we'll end up putting a Hellhorse, the Hellhorse twin turbo kit that's coming out that's not released yet that requires a BMRK member into it. And we'll either run, I'm looking at 3 different turbo options. We'll either run a pair of 6871s, a pair of 6875s, or if I feel like being really retarded, putting a pair of 7275s underneath the car and letting it eat. And, we'll do some other things and tweaks and changes, but we're working with a lot of great companies to do it. We're working with Will at RPG to do it. Comp Turbo's working with us on the turbos. Fuel Injector Clinic's working with us on fuel injectors. Obviously, I got some BMR parts that are going on it. It's going to be really unique and interesting. And the end goal for that is to start taking it to the Texas 2Ks and I don't want to say import wars, but, all these other festivals and events that go on top of being local. So the car will get raced. And the car will also be in, boosts as we go to all these events as well for people to check out and see what's going on. But that variation of the turbo kit will be coming out after the Louisiana car. We haven't talked about that a lot, but we certainly can.
You still have that car?
The Louisiana car is here. The motor's on its way back. It's getting a similar spec motor that's 12-to-1 compression. It'll only run on Ignite 114. Manuel Midnight Performance is doing a full-blown 10R80 build. He's the only guy doing custom things with clutches and internals to try to support the power level. So he's got the transmission beefing that car up. That car is getting a pair of 6871s going underneath with custom headers. And the goal is to try to make 2,000 wheel horsepower with that. The 10R80 won't hold it forever, but it'd be cool to set a power number with that. And then that's getting a 5.2 Predator motor as well. And then, run it at 15 to 1,700 wheel horsepower and see how fast it'll go. It's got an RPM roll bar going into it. It's got Motion Raceworks' entire CO2 system in it. It's going to be CO2 controlled gates with a boost leash and a CO2 parachute from Motion Raceworks and all sorts of craziness is going in that car.
It's going to be a fast car.
So we're taking a little bit to that and some of the other projects like Alex and things like that, and then doing some R&D on the 15 to get it caught up. What's on it was awesome 3-4 years ago when the car came out. 900 wheel horsepower wasn't anything to joke about back then, especially on the streets. And now the goal is going to be to have a Glide powered car that if I want to run it at 18, 19, 2,000 wheel horsepower, it's going to be retarded enough to be able to do it, which that is a retarded power level number. I mean, not just for people listening to it, but I mean, you talk to Rob Shoemaker, you talk to everybody that's involved in kind of planning out this build, and everybody's like, that is, you're going to be able to make retarded power. Most cars going to the mile, for instance, for folks listening, if you go to the mile event where people race top speed in a mile, those cars have 2,500-ish wheel horsepower. And we're talking about putting a car on the street that's capable of making 2,000 wheel horsepower running a quarter mile.
Some of those TX2K cars that are 3,000, 3,500.
Yeah,
just when you say retarded, I mean, that's just like, it's mind boggling. You can't.
Well, the fun part's going to be putting it in my house garage and then taking my wife to get dinner in it, at some point, and her absolutely hating it. But it's going to be fun. It'll probably get dumped off with Gavin at some point for him and Doug to be able to make content with because of what's going on with the black car that we won't talk about until he releases the videos. But the stuff behind the scenes that's going on with that, I'm sure it'll end up with probably maybe not with, but we'll get Stang Mode down to drive it and demo it. We've got some stuff thinking about him and Alex, who's with us, and then Jack with his GT350R turbo, trying to make some joint content on all of that. So there can be some retarded expressions to that car, probably not turned all the way up. I don't know how many of them are going to want to get in a car that turned up and try to drive it, whether it's track or the street.
Let's do it.
Yeah, you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean that's the fuck it power level.
Yeah, I know there's probably plenty of people out there like, it's no problem. Let's just take it to the strip. It's like
let's just send it on the street.
It's a different world. This is not like your every day.
No, it's going to be literally street driven with a parachute on it, and I'm working with Jose from MW Wheel Companies, who owns Weld, and Ford Star, what's on Alex's car, and a bunch of cars to try to do something cool with the wheel setup on that car, to do something a little bit different, to make it stand out, so that when the car's seen in public or people are seeing it at events and asking questions, it's just got a few unique touches other than just retarded power levels with a retarded dyno graph attached to it, and hopefully retarded track times attached to it. Try to put some sense of reason, but it'll show you how far the car platform can go. And it's a great way to have a conversation with everybody that buys from us or looks for advice from us or listens to the content, to say, listen, you can go to this extreme, or like Alex was talking about, here's some examples of rods and pistons motors doing crazy things. That are more in the realm of reality. The things that are going into this car is not necessarily the realm of, it's not the realm of reality budget wise for most people. You don't look at most people and go, hey, call Willett RPG and spend a minimum of $18,000 on your motor. Like, that's what retail on the motor is. Same thing happened when Gavin built the GT350 motor and then did that video about, the money in it. People saw, they're like, holy crap, the motor retails for how much?
It's expensive.
There's obviously different levels of stuff. And I even contacted one and said, let's just do rods and pistons. Let's just do a rods pistons motor, keep it super relatable. Let's go for 1,1400 wheel horsepower, weld up the water jackets. We'll do all that. And then he's just like, well, why don't we, if we're going to do that, let's just do it all. And I'm like, yeah, fuck it. Let's just go all the way.
Don't have to tell me twice.
Whatever, I'm not going to daily drive this thing. We got some other things to drive, and it's going to be on the trailer most of the time. And 90% of the time, I'm still driving customers' cars for them or with them, or while they're being built and processed, that are lower power. So you still get to enjoy the lower power cars at the same time. And that kind of segues into, I guess, the last thing I'm going to talk about is got an IG competition on that you can win $100 if you're still listening, 80 minutes into this podcast. For guessing the horsepower out of Gavin's GT350. He was on the dyno yesterday. For reference and time frame, he was on the dyno on the April 4th, 2020. I don't know when the video is going to drop. I'm cutting off the contest on Monday night because I've already got like 2,000 comments of guessing the horsepower. One guess. He was on the dyno with both the black car and the GT350. And if you guess the horsepower number right, win $100. To give you guys a little bit of an upside help, did run out of fuel pump, and he's on 7-pound wastegate springs just like Alex. So if you can guess the horsepower number, you can win $100. But
now, the power, do you have to guess the exact number, or is it the closest?
Nah, within three. Wheel horsepower within 3.
Okay.
Some people are super close, and some people have some crazy ideas for how much power that car should be making on a stock GT350 fuel system with a BAP. Because that car is it's on E85 on a stock fuel system.
It's making like 1,500, right, bro?
Yeah, all day on a stock fuel pump all day. He made massive power. It's going to be impressive. People are going to like that content. It's crazy. It's crazy to see what they'll do, and that'll tie into Jack's GT350R being able to make retarded power on a stock motor for where he wants to be boost wise. And then there's always Xander here, who I'm trying to get up to that 15-pound level on the street. Just send it at 1,200 wheel horsepower on the street.
Yeah.
We'll get Alex there. But yeah, there's a contest. Guess it. Win $100. That money's coming out of my pocket. It's not sponsored money. It's not coming from Gavin. It's coming from me. I think it's kind of a fun way to get people interactive with the stuff. We'll do the same thing with Xander here once we get him back on the dyno under full boost. And you guys haven't seen those numbers. I have an idea of what it should make, and so does he. But we'll run a contest with that too. But I guess we'll finish out the podcast there. We can talk more about what's going on with the build with my own car in the episodes as they come up, since so much is going on with it and everything's changing about that 15. We will be putting a digital dash in. It doesn't have it. We will be going from Sync 2 to Sync 3. We'll be doing a lot of those updates at the same time, so people will be able to see that in person when they see the car as well, of like, what does that look like in an updated car if they haven't seen it.
Sweet.
You guys got anything else you want to mention, talk about, forgot about? Anything like that, or are we good to go? We
covered a lot for today.
I think that is it. The 0 to 84. Now you do the Hell Horse factory cars. Does that apply as well?
Yeah, it applies to that.
All right, sweet.
So obviously the car's got to meet the qualifications for it, but as long as you qualify and the car you're picking qualifies, the 0% can be used on Hell Horse cars as well.
Excellent.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me, and thanks for everybody for listening. An hour and 23 minutes into it. We seem to be making these podcasts longer, and look for episode 6 probably later on this week, as we've got a lot of good topics kind of coming about between Sam and I and everything that's going on around here. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.